Hey everyone, I am the TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
And welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we talk about various bits of gaming news over the past month, as well as what we've been playing. But Kai, we might as well get this out of the way. Just give me a quick summary. How are you enjoying Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
Oh boy, I am enjoying it a lot. It's
Good.
very
Yeah.
fun. Very, very fun.
I'm with you there. We're having a great time with it, but of course, it's a long game. We're going to be playing this for a while, so who knows when we'll get to talk about it properly. But that will be coming. Don't worry. Once we've both finished it, there will be floods of coverage of Xenoblade. You can don't need to doubt that.
Of course.
But there's still been some other things we've been playing. There's been some various bits of news, particularly Splatoon focused this month. So we're going to just sort of break down all that and our thoughts on what there has been. So if you're ready, Kai, we can get started on the first segment of the podcast, which is
let's do it.
Can't have a podcast without news, baby. And let's just start things off. Splatoon 3. We got a big direct that had a massive blowout on all the information, and even since then they released, which we were expecting they would, a test fire. I can't remember the technical name used for it. Basically, we all got a chance to play a Splatfest, and we have thoughts on that as well. But before we get to that, let's sort of go over some of the bits that were just sort of more surface level from the trailer that doesn't really relate to the gameplay, because we'll get to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And first, I think one of the big things is we got our look at the new team, the new music group for Splatoon 3, which is Deep Cut with Shiver, Fry, and of course, Big Man.
Big Man!
What a legend!
Big Man supremacy! Okay, yeah.
How do you find this new team, Kai? What's your thoughts on seeing them for the first time?
Well, it's kind of weird. For the first 5 seconds when I saw them, the intro where they take their masks off, I was very unbothered. I was like, I don't know, they don't really stick out to me as much. And then their song came on, Rainbow Anarchy, or Anarchy Rainbow, whatever it's called. And instantly I decided, actually, no, they're my favourites now. Pretty damn quickly.
It really has true festival vibes to it, which fits perfectly for Splatfest. It definitely has a good energy with it. Yeah, I definitely like what we see, and not just because of Big Man, although obviously MVP. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting because in the other games, especially in the first game, they're much more like idols, and second games like pop stars. This game, it's really interesting because rather than just having fairly straightforward theming, it seems that for this game you've got Shiver is all about traditional Japanese music and design. Fry has kind of been debated. It's something people are saying probably around Indonesia. And Big Man is sort of meant to represent South America, Brazil type vibes, which is really cool actually. I like how they've mixed all that together to make an absolute banger of a sound. I actually quite like them for that, and the designs are good.
Yes. Yeah, I'm on board with the new group. It's nice to see, we were all sort of... Usually they start with that, I think. I feel like they started with sort of Off the Hook for Splatoon 2, so it was interesting they kept it rating, but I definitely think it paid off. I think they look interesting for... I know this is going into a bit more gameplay thing. The fact that I think they showed off that you can actually skip over their introductions to the stages, that's already a step above the last two. So.
A very big upgrade. I know a lot of people who played the game a lot. They were like, that's my one complaint, is that I have to sit through this every single time. So,
exactly.
I feel like that's a very good addition.
And, like I said, they did show off lots of stages and weapon stuff. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But one thing that I think is of note is the single player, for a start, we know is focusing around... We saw a bit of this before, the mammalians, the hairy Octo troopers, which is terrifying still. That is incredibly cursed, and it will never not be. But we saw things like Captain Cuttlefish and the Squid Sisters, so definitely looking interesting there, especially now that I've been able to watch Octo Expansion. I watched Chugga play it, and of course you can play it for free now if you own Splatoon 2 with NSO. So it's going to be interesting to see where things pick up from that. I know they did do a bit of gameplay in a treehouse. Did you watch that at all, Kai? I personally skipped it because I want to...
I think I saw a tiny bit of it, but I wasn't paying full attention to it.
Yeah, I kind of want to just wait to play it myself, seeing as it's coming up, in less than a month, in a few weeks' time now. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's worth waiting on.
I think it's very interesting that the single player reminds me of Octoling Expansion a lot more than it does the regular story mode we're used to, like in terms of its design. And I think that's a step forward considering how Octoling Expansion got very high praise. So
Definitely, it makes sense to sort of go off of what worked. But on that topic, people have been bringing up Octo Expansion, haha puns, because they did announce that we are getting a new DLC that seemed to feature Off the Hook, looking by the little logo we got of it. But it seems like it wasn't given an official title, but we are getting a DLC story of some sort around Off the Hook, which I mean, it makes sense since the first one did so well, but you kind of wonder what approach is this going to take now. Is it going to focus on Agent 8 again? Is it going to go back to Agent 8?
yeah,
I don't know.
who can say? I think one thing I feel confident in is that it might bring in Deep Cut in some way. But even then, I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that. So it really could do anything. Either way, I'm sure it's going to be good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I wonder if it will be included in NSO or not, because, I mean, we've seen that's a trend, Mario Kart and Animal Crossing both got their brand new DLC included. Xenoblade didn't, though. If you want to buy the Xenoblade free expansion pass, that's not connected to NSO. So they're not necessarily doing it for every new game, although I feel like if they're focusing that more on the multiplayer kind of games, they might. I don't know, do you think they will?
I don't think it'll be part of Nintendo Switch Online. I think mainly based on I think the main things are either who's making the game and sort of its life cycle, because I believe we only really got Octoling Expansion as a free NSO thing because Splatoon 3 was coming out and it helps generate hype. I think it was a good idea. I think that if we were to get this for free, we would have to wait, or say for free, I say, NSO Online as like a bonus thing. We'd probably have to wait like 3-4 years for it. I don't think we'd get it until like the end of the Switch's life cycle, maybe even like before the new version comes out.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, to be honest with you. Stuff like Animal Crossing and that, that makes a bit more sense. I think anything they think they can make more money on, they will. Especially as they don't, they needed to do it with Animal Crossing because the service was launching and it needed a big boost to it, I think. But it'll be interesting to see what else they add to that in the future.
It should be good.
It'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But let's get on to some gameplay now. The Splatfest itself, which we were able to play rock, paper, scissors, because for the first time we now have three-way Splatfests. It's no longer just two sides. You've got three to pick from, and we're not going to get to like the Tricolour bit yet. We'll get to the Turf Wars in a little bit, but just what do you think of having 3 teams instead of 2?
I like the concept because originally, one of the debates I saw a lot of people put forward is like 3 teams would not work because one of the teams would probably get ganged up on. It might be unfair. So it kind of it sort of tells you to not play well because then the other 2 teams would just target you, and that's where the problem would lie. However, by doing it in the way they have, where it's 4 people defending the middle and then 2 people from either side attacking, it actually creates this dynamic where it kind of balances out in that sense. Of course, depending on the stage and the structure of it, it can vary slightly, as we'll get to shortly. But the concept is, I think, very sound, and it's a good way of making 3 teams involved. Personally, I would have been more interested in having like a bigger multi-team thing than just 3, but I think this is good.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if they did like a straight out like a new mode, like a battle royale mode, or I know that's sort of the trendy thing, but something along those lines, something new. We still haven't really seen anything to that level. It's more just like variations on existing concepts so far, which I mean, for me that's not a problem because I didn't even get Splatoon 2, so it's still a big jump. But for people who did, I can see how it might not be as big a selling point when it doesn't have that unique part to it.
Yeah.
But this definitely is an interesting twist still, and I think there's definitely a lot of potential. I've seen some ideas like they could do one for the Free Houses teams,
yeah, stuff like
or
that.
the houses. or Pokemon starters they could do. And that would, of course, be absolute bloodshed because people get very defensive over Pokemon. So
Yeah,
it's
that's a good point. Yeah, there's a lot of potential now because, of course, before only having 2 teams, it's a different kind of situation. So
yeah, definitely opens up some new things. And I think before we get to like the gameplay itself, like just in like the town, the new, I forgot its name. I probably should look this up. But your new hub world and the UI of things, the lobby system where you get to play around while you wait. It all feels so much smoother than 1, and probably than 2. I didn't play 2. But it really feels like that to me is where this sort of feels like this is a new game worthy of being on the same console. How it just felt so much slicker and smoother getting into battle and being able to explore the hub world and that sort of menu aspects of the game. Did you find that?
yeah, I think overall, just a lot of the menus and the design of the game, and then walking around, it all felt very smooth, very stylish, and that did feel like a significant upgrade from the second game. Just something about it flowed much better, and made it feel new. So yeah, that definitely was a feeling I had.
Then we get to the battles themselves, and Kai, I know you had a bit of fun playing with the Splatana, did you not?
I did, yes. I don't believe either of us tried the Tri-Stringer, did we? Which is the other new weapon.
Only very briefly in the training bit. Because I haven't played Splatoon in years, I stuck to like the basic guns, to be honest with you.
No, that's fair, that's fair. Yeah, the Tri-Stringer seems interesting. It's more of a sniper type weapon, but we know roughly about that. The Splatana, yeah, is the most recent sort of addition to the main weapon list, and I tried it out for a fair bit. And yeah, I really like it actually. It's really good. I think it's very balanced. You know, it doesn't feel overpowered, where normally in other games of this type, power creep is definitely a thing that could occur, but they balanced it well. You know, I think it's really interesting how it has 2 forms of attack, being the regular swipes, which are kind of like half the speed of an ink brush, which is very significant because, you know, that's very slow in that case.
Yeah.
But in return, they are like these ranged sort of shots, almost. You know, it's got the range of like a splatter shot or something. Maybe even further, for all I know. So that's really interesting, how it's kind of like... It almost feels like a shooter-type weapon in a sense, without actually being a shooter. And then its second attack is kind of the one where it holds down the weapon and then almost like unsheathes it into a big linear attack, which kind of feels like the roller's jump attack, which, you know, does a bit more damage and you need to charge it up. But
Yes.
that was a very fun feeling, I'll say that. Like, overall, the Splatana felt very fun, felt very balanced and fair at the same time. And I'm looking forward to seeing like how it sort of enters the rotation of weapons, especially at a higher level. So that'll be fun to see.
Yeah. I mean, I played with the Splattershot Junior, I think it was most of the time. A very simple weapon because, like I said, been a while since I played, but it just felt great to be back in Splatoon again. Because I haven't played since the Wii U days. It took me a little bit to like find out the right gyro controls I wanted, the right sensitivity and that, and sort of to get in the groove of it. At the first, I found myself like I was like moving around the controller too much to the point where it actually was hurting my hands. So I needed to sort of sink back into it again. But it just felt great to play overall. Do you think it felt significantly different from 2, or was it just more of the same in a good way?
I think that, yeah, it kind of felt the same a little bit, but on the most part felt better. Just, it's hard to put my finger on it. Maybe it's just because I haven't played regular Splatoon 2 in a while. But yeah, it felt fresh, it felt new, but not in a way that's like too new, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was anything revolutionary, but it definitely did feel like it was fresh.
Fresh. Yeah. It's because that's the thing they say. Yeah, I get it, guy. Yeah. But are there any other weapons or specials you want to talk about? Like, I know I had the special where it like created like a little protective barrier around you, and I found that particularly useful in Tricolour. We'll get to that later. But I thought that was quite interesting. Did you like the new weapon sets and the new specials? Because I know they're completely changed from 2, really, on the most part.
Yeah, I think they're good. So generally the weapons, the sub-weapons are often the same, and then there are a couple new ones. And then the main thing was specials, where most of them are new. Some of them are like edited versions of previous specials. And yeah, I think the specials in this game are vastly better than the ones in Splatoon 1 and 2. The main reason being that Splatoon 1's specials were all kind of just like extremely OP attacks. That's what all of them were.
Yeah.
And that was all it was. It was just like KOs or whatever. Splatoon 2's were better because they were almost entirely team-oriented. However, the issue is that, like, I know there's a way to, like, classify all the different types of specials, and almost every single special in Splatoon 2 is what you'd call a displacement special, where the only point of it is to move an enemy away from where they currently are, such as, you know, an ink storm, they move out of the storm. A baller, you're moving them away from the location they're currently in. Tenta missiles does the exact same thing. So that was kind of an issue, is that they all basically did the same thing in a different way.
Yeah.
This game, however, seems to have them sort of around the board. You know, you've still got your ink storms which do that, and then you've got your ones like the Killer Whale 3.0 which are damage based. But then there are other ones that kind of do things in between. You know, you've got the crab thing, which is like a sort of a transformation special. The Trizooka, I believe it's called, is really interesting too. There's just a lot of like really cool looking specials, and I think they did a good job of that, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely felt like everything worked and meshed together well. I'm looking forward to getting the full game itself, so single player is usually a great point to like get to play around with those specials or the main weapons mostly.
Yeah.
But I know Octo Expansion did like some really interesting stuff with the specials, so hopefully that carries on here as well. Because definitely, once you single player is a great place to pick things up to then use in multiplayer. So I'm definitely looking forward to being able to give them a proper try without the pressure of having to try and survive against a barrage of opponents who are better than me. So
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's fine. You'll play ranked and you'll be in like C rank. Don't worry, you'll be absolutely fine.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe I'll just stay there comfortably.
Yeah.
I don't need to be rank. It's fine.
There were a lot of like other small details in the trailer I want to draw attention to, because they were like really cool actually. That
Go for
I will
it.
say that the Splatoon Direct as a whole was really good. Like there was so much going on. I liked the narrator. I think they were fine. Just overall, like I'm surprised how much they packed into that, because there was so much going on at all times.
Yeah, definitely. They've got the pacing down. Nintendo have.
Yeah, really, they're used to it. So I think one thing is that like with the style type side of things, of course they've got stuff to do with emotes and banners in the game now that they showed off. So emotes for when you win, banners in battle, you've got your title and everything, kind of like Animal Crossing. That's all new, so I'm kind of cool to see that there. It's also weird to see merch grown up as well, but
Yeah.
that's so jarring. But I think the main thing is like the lockers on that front is a cool idea. You know, just a cool way to customize it and show what you're like. We never really had anything like that before. If you would ever click on someone's profile in Splatoon, it would just be like what equipment they're using and what rank they are. It was very gameplay focused, so
They're up in
I
the
think
personality.
this is cool to show. Yeah, that's exactly it. It shows off their personality, so I think that was a good idea. We saw some new stuff in Salmon Run, just minor bits. 2 new enemies. The Big Shot, who kind of throws in like mortar type attacks, and a Slammin' Lid, which I like just because the name sounds like Salmonid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the first thing I noticed. So when you see it, you gotta go, "There's a Slammin' Lid Salmonid, watch out!" And then it's like the hash slinging slasher. So
Yeah.
you've got the lemon
Slammin',
slid.
Salmon.
But then one of the main things was we got to see a bit more of the big boy in Salmon Run.
Yes.
The King Salmonid Kohozuna, which is a bonus round that only happens sometimes, as we learned. Where the whole concept is you defeat other bosses to get eggs, and then you have to throw the eggs at this guy to whittle down its health. I really like the concept of a boss wave in Salmon Run. I think it sort of shakes it up a bit more, advances it. You know, that's really what I'm looking for here, and I think that's what they achieved.
And it sounds terrifying, so...
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big things, and maybe I've misinterpreted this, or who knows, but I've not seen it talked about anywhere. But in the trailer, they specifically clarify that this is one of the King Salmonids, Kohozuna. which suggests to me that there might be multiple different types of King Salmonid boss fights with different types of kings. And
Well, we do know the game's going to get regular updates, so it's not impossible they can add
Exactly.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, so they might just start with this one, and then we get more in updates, which, you know, brings people back to Salmon Run after a while. And I think that's a really cool idea if that is the case. I could be wrong, but like I think that would be cool to have different types of these huge salmonids. That, you know, who knows, could even be like seasonal. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Yeah, it's a way to keep people coming back to Salmon Run, having these seasonal different variations of the big boss. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the last thing I want to mention is card game. There's a card game. There's a card
Oh
game.
yeah, I forgot
We
about
have
that.
a card game.
I'm going to touch it once and never play it again, but I still like that it's there.
Oh, I'm not even playing regular Splatoon. I'm paying £60 for the card game, and then there's just an extra gameplay side of things.
Yeah, that's valid.
Like this is a £60 card game for me. I don't know what you mean, but anyway, yeah, the card game looks interesting. It's kind of like a turf war card thing, where it seems like you can place down cards and advance through the stage and whatever. And it's, I don't know. We'll see how good it is. If it's actually like, it could genuinely be really good. It could be kind of meh. Either way, I'm really looking forward to just seeing it because of the way they hyped it up in the trailer. They did a really good job of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of small details. Like we said, it may not be anything big that's like groundbreaking for Splatoon, but they've made a lot of new small additions and tweaks and improvements. So it's definitely looking positive. And
Exactly, yeah.
this is probably the time to end on one of the biggest additions to the game in the Splatfest, which are the Tricolour battles. Because once you're halfway through a Splatfest, the winning team has to take on both other teams. Kai already explained it a bit earlier, but you've got 4 in the middle versus 2 from each team coming on the sides. And if they get to the centre, they can take hold of a certain... I can't remember what it's called, but basically they get a new ability that gives them a big advantage in turfing. And it's a really fun concept. I really enjoyed the idea of playing it. It doesn't feel balanced for the winning team, which I think is the big thing. And
that was a consensus by more than just us, by the way.
Yes,
that is
I looked up
widespread
it. Yeah,
opinion.
Team Rock were the winning team, which is what Kai and I were both on. Not the Rock, sorry, Scissors. Yeah, close enough.
We were the
we were
winning
on Team
team for the
Scissors.
halfway point, so yeah.
Yes, for the halfway point. And then we ended up in last place. And I think that says enough right there. It just... Like, it's hard because I quite enjoyed playing it in a general sense. I think having to take down both teams, the way... There was an element of it that was figuring out how to play this new approach. It's different, it's new. And as we played more, we got better. We did discover new tactics to give us more of a chance. We did get some wins, which felt really great. But it still didn't feel balanced. It still felt like the moment that they grab hold of that centre thing, it's over. And it just, like... I don't know what tweaks exactly there need to be, but it feels like it's salvageable. It's perfectly salvageable. It's not like it's going to be a trash mode. They can make just minor changes and it can be really good. Because I love the concept. But it definitely needs those changes and I hope it gets them.
Yeah, the idea is great. The main issue... I think... I mean, there's 2 different ways you could point at the main issue. One of them is that you have that sprinkler thing in the middle and only the side teams can grab it. Meaning that the middle team, even though it's like, oh, there's 4 of them, you know, they can't grab this advantage that the other 2 teams have. You know, it's still essentially a 4v4 because, to my knowledge, when Rock or Paper won, it showed the victory screen for the other team as well. So it's essentially a 4v4, but you're being pincered, and the losing 2 teams have an advantage on top of that, which didn't feel great. But I actually think the main issue could have been what a lot of people were saying, and it was actually the stage. In that, because of how the stages work in Splatoon, is that each team typically has their home base, just as a bit of security, and the other team cannot reach it. The only way they can reach it is probably with that new sort of like Spider-Man slinging special, you know the one.
Yes, yeah.
But apart from that, there is no way of them really reaching this area. They literally cannot walk there. And that's normally fine for Turf War. The problem is, in Tricolour, the 2 side teams, the losing teams, both get their bases. The red team, the winning team does not. which
Yes.
basically means that both of those side teams have like a free 20% each advantage, I guess. Meaning that in order for the middle team to win, you've got to dominate like everything except for those sides, and even then you might lose. So that was really where I thought the main disadvantage came into play, is that those two sides had just an immediate handicap from having those areas exist, whereas the middle team struggles. So on other maps where maybe that base area is smaller, I think that it could actually be very balanced.
That's a good point, yeah. Its stage definitely can make a big difference in this kind of thing. It will be very interesting to see the first main game Splatfest, because to be fair, you can't. This is ultimately, it's like a beta test. It's a beta test, really. You know.
Yeah, that's
So
why
you
I
can't-
wasn't too salty.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, we were definitely all salty in the moment, but looking back at it, you can't give them too much. You know, you gotta give them a little bit of slack because that's what it's for, and it will be interesting to see how that plays out in the first real Splatfest, which will probably be, I don't know, a month into the game's release or something like that. It will be interesting to see what changes are made and if it feels better. I mean, we might not even be on the winning team now. Maybe we'll be on the other sides and we'll have a different experience altogether. So it's going to be fascinating, but they're onto something good, and I think they can make the changes and make it feel more balanced. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm excited for future Splatfests.
If anything, it's just good now that they know how unbalanced it is, so they can sort it out before the main game. Because if this was actually in the game, it would have probably annoyed people a whole lot more.
Yes, very true. I definitely felt vindicated seeing the results and seeing other people's thoughts afterwards, that it wasn't just me being salty. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, that's Splatoon. We've talked a lot about Splatoon, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's coming
we'll
out
be
in a
talking
week's
about it
time.
more next month, I'm sure, when it releases.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's coming out very shortly. I've pre-ordered it. I know you have too, Kai. So yeah, we're going to be diving into that soon when we can, amidst the Xenoblade, which
Yeah,
never
true.
ends. But let's quickly go through some shorter stories here that we've got. There have been some other things, and one of these is we sort of learned a bit more. I think technically it was revealed last month, but I forgot to talk about it. But we got a proper look at Kirby's Dream Buffet, which has since released, and it seems to it's like an eShop game, but it costs money. It's not free to play, and it's basically like a Fall Guys Mario Party Kirby game in a sense, where you're trying to eat as much food as possible. And there's 3 modes. It starts with a race, which is the Fall Guys style obstacle course. Then it has mini games, which seem to be the Mario Party bit where you're collecting fruit amid different obstacles in like an arena. And then you have a final fight where you try to knock each other out of the arena to claim more strawberries. And at the end, the biggest Kirby wins. It's condoning gluttony, but that's always been Kirby's way. So you can't really judge him for that. It looks really fun. What do you think looking at it?
Yeah, I think it looks good. Ultimately, I'd probably still prefer to play Fall Guys.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think it looks bad. One of the main complaints I've heard, and I don't know how much truth there is to this or exactly the details, but apparently there's an issue people are annoyed with where, like, supposedly you can, like, win the race or the battle or whatever. You can win a mode, but then someone else will win with like random arbitrary bonuses of some kind. Apparently that's an issue. So like even if you win, there's catch-up mechanics that are like on a different level of, damn, okay, I don't deserve to win, I guess.
Right, yeah.
But who knows? I don't know the details.
The thing is, I find this game looks really charming, but I feel like it almost should have been free to play. And
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because I don't want to. I mean, there's definitely value in having even multiplayer games that come with all the content in the game. Like I know as much. You can get all the content in the game just by playing it. You don't have to like. There's no in-game purchases or that kind of thing. So it's all in the game, which I respect that. But I think Fall Guys has shown by going free to play, it's the kind of game that merges with that model well. Certain games just fit it, and although it's a bit annoying when you don't buy the season pass and you can't get all the rewards, I still had fun playing Fall Guys. Yeah. Whereas I'm not playing Kirby's Dream Buffet because I've got too much else to play and I'm not spending 15 quid on a small mini game Kirby game, you know?
Yeah, definitely should have been free to play. It's just that kind of vibe.
Yeah, it feels like it would have been more successful. I think more people would have been talking about it and more people would have been I mean, obviously more people would have been playing it, but I feel like it would have just
honestly,
stayed
just do the whole
relevant.
thing where it's like free to play, and then there's cosmetics you can buy or the battle pass or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't hate that system because it's not like it's helping you in the actual game. It's just cosmetics. Like
Exactly.
I feel like
yeah.
they would have done way better if they did that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they sort of missed an opportunity. I guess Nintendo don't do that kind of thing very often, but they have done in the past with Kirby spin-offs. So it's interesting they didn't here. But hopefully people who play it are enjoying it. Maybe it'll go free to play in a few years, like Fall Guys did. You never know. Okay, or at least free for NSO members. I think it should have been free for the expansion pass members, like Tetris 99 kind of thing. But anyway,
I agree with that completely.
The other big thing we got, which was literally announced today when we were recording this, another Voice of Cards game, The Beast of Burden, releasing this month, September 15th or 16th or something. Mm-hmm. Man, they are pumping these out.
They are, yeah. It's impressive.
It makes sense they can, given the format. It's a very simplistic style that doesn't require. They can reuse assets and change things slightly and have a whole new game suddenly. Not to say it's easy. Game development not easy, but it makes sense they can do it quickly. But even still, I'm surprised that we've got essentially 3 within the span of a year. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we were saying before we started the recording. Like, Voice of Cards has got down such a basically it's the game engine is something that they've really just sort of got that they can just keep reusing. All they need to do is change the scripts of the game kind of a little bit. They just make a little bit of new artwork, make some new dialogue, move some things around. But in general, it's a very straightforward thing to them. Of course I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not trying to downplay what they've done. But it's fairly simple for them to just make a new game using the same engine, and they're enjoyable. I really enjoyed the first one, and I'm sort of planning on playing the second and third eventually. So it's cool that they're sort of making this a little series for people who do like it.
Honestly, I really enjoyed watching you play the first one, and I'd be tempted to get 2 and 3 if it wasn't for the fact, God, there's so much to play.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'll get time for it, but it looks. I mean, I don't think I didn't really. I know you haven't watched the trailer because you're trying to avoid bits, and I haven't. You can't really pick up much from the story from the little bit they show. It seems like very similar sort of affair. You got your narrator narrating everything, that kind of thing. But it just has this natural charm to the game, and I think that's sort of from what I've seen of all 3 of them, that stayed throughout. Hopefully it doesn't get stale because I could imagine some people getting tired of it if they're releasing too many. I don't think there should be another one in 3 months' time. I think it's starting to get a bit too much if they do that.
I think every 6 months would have worked. Maybe I don't know exactly what they've been doing, but
yeah. I do wonder what their future is, and I don't know if these connect at all story-wise. They seem to be separate, but who knows?
Yeah, we can probably talk about that more if we do ever get around to it. I'm sure.
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm just glad this series is keeping going, and hopefully it does well. And I would like to see that after, if this is a trilogy, whether it's connected story or not, I would like to see maybe then give it a year's time and then maybe do another trilogy that has a bit more. It's a bit different rather than sticking with the same formula. Maybe.
Yeah.
But I hope it keeps going. I mean, the music alone, just from that trailer, it's so goddamn well. It's well done.
Yeah, of course. It's the people who make it. They know what they're doing.
Seeing this news, one of my first thoughts was, I can use the Voice of Cards music in the video again in the podcast. I think it's from the parlor battle or something. I keep using.
I know the one. It's playing in my head right now.
Yeah, same. I'm like, any chance to use that is a good day, so can't complain. But that is it for most of the news today. There's been a few other bits, but not much we have to say about, especially as we're running on a little bit. So let's get on to our final segment of the podcast. Games Time, baby, where we talk about the different games that we've been playing this month. And I've only got one, so Kai, I know you've got a few in mind. Do you want to start us off?
I'll do 2, yeah.
Sure thing. What's one you've been playing?
So, one I've been playing that you've seen is the Octo Expansion. Let's talk about more Splatoon. Yay!
We haven't had enough yet.
So yeah, like I said earlier, I think it was a very good idea for them to release Octo Expansion for free on Nintendo Switch Online. A couple months before Splatoon 3 releases. I think that was an excellent idea from them. Builds up hype for the game. Of course, Octo Expansion is fairly difficult, which is quite nice too. Just overall, I think it was a good decision. And then yeah, I played it on stream for a bit because I was like, I've never played it. Might as well, give it a go. I've heard a lot of good things about it. And yeah, I think it was really, really good. Really a step up from the standard story mode, which could often feel kind of tedious. Octo Expansion presented such a variety of interesting challenges. Challenge being the key word there, because I think that from what I'd heard of Octo Expansion, I thought it was really, really hard. Like, I thought there were going to be multiple levels that I would find impossible to beat. Turns out that that's not the case. It's not like impossible. I beat every level. None of them took me any longer than 20 minutes to beat, I guess. I think the one that took me longest was that speedrun with the carbon roller.
You mean you're saying it's not the Dark Souls of Splatoon?
It's not, no. It's the closest we'll get, I think. Oh, no,
Yeah.
I say that. X rank is the closest you'll get to that.
Fair point.
But yeah, it was actually still really, really fun. So, difficulty shouldn't be taken away from anything. The 8-ball levels were pretty fun. I liked all of the different unique ideas. Like, there was the one where it was kind of a Gallagher level.
Yeah.
The one where you literally just move back and forth to propel a ball upwards to destroy everything, like Brick Breaker. Of course, all the references were really charming, especially the ones that were given to the names of every level. Like, I remember the Inkazig level.
Yes.
So overall, just a lot of charm, a lot of sort of 80s references. Of course, Octoling 8, Agent 8, 80s, haha. But I really enjoyed all of the references. It was a really charming game. The style was impeccable, I will say. Yeah. I think that even Splatoon 3 hasn't topped the style that Splatoon Octo Expansion had. I mean, granted, I feel like, that sort of style works for a smaller DLC thing, but even then it was just so good. But yeah, the gameplay kept me interested the entire time. There was not a point where I felt bored at all. It's really, really good.
What you were saying about the style, I still remember I don't know if it was the reveal trailer, or one of the early trailers for Octo Expansion, where I believe it had the song Nasty Majesty and Off the Hook song playing, and it showed different characters on the train with all their deep sea designs, which are really unique and interesting.
Yeah, I know the one.
And it just has that crazy flair, and I hope that, if not the Splatoon 3 single player, the new DLC campaign, I hope that at least keeps that up, because I'd love to see more with what they did with that sort of deep sea vibes to it. In general, it just... I didn't play it myself, because I don't own Splatoon 2, but I watched you play a bit, and I watched Chugga play it recently, Chugga Conroy, on his YouTube channel. And not only does some really inventive things with its level design, in the way that the main campaign for both 1 and 2 didn't, I think, it really gave more character and personality to Pearl and Marina, I think, in the little chats they have.
It did.
And I think that added a lot of value. And I hope that we see... I know you mentioned that we want to see a deep cut in the DLC for Splatoon 3, and I hope that does happen so we get more of that kind of thing, because it really paid off.
Yeah, because before that, of course, Off the Hook were just kind of... they had no story, because Splatoon 2's main story was about the Squid Sisters again.
Yeah.
So, it was nice that they were actually given attention there. So the story as well was a nice touch. And then, of course, all the final boss / area and all that, I thought was a really cool concept. I loved the stealth section.
Yeah.
just in concept alone, I really liked it. So overall, Octo Expansion, one of the best DLCs I think Nintendo has put forward for one of their main sort of games and IPs. Definitely.
Yeah, so it's short of only Torna than that, I think, really. It's
pretty much. I think it's up there as one of the best. So, yeah, really, really enjoyed that. And I'm looking forward to seeing Splatoon 3's campaign, purely because it reminds me of Octo Expansion.
Yes. Well, as for me, I have also actually going to be talking about a game I've been streaming. I do occasionally stream on TheChosenOneLegend, every now and then. And technically I haven't even finished this game, but I'm so close, and I haven't actually played anything else this month except Xenoblade, so I need something to talk about here. And that is Uncharted 2. I've been playing Uncharted 2 on streams, and I have thoughts. It's,
Mm.
Uncharted 2 is lauded as like the best Uncharted game I hear, and like a masterpiece in gaming. I think I've heard, and I've enjoyed what I've played a lot. I've had a good time with it. It's fun. It's got a real personality to it. Nathan Drake is he's your sort of Indiana Jones action hero, and it plays it perfectly well. It is also a mess. Like let's not beat around the bush here. It is the story. This is partly because I was streaming it, so I wasn't paying much attention to story. But it jumps around a lot. Characters are like, I can't even remember her name, but that one other girl that's in it, the one of the female protagonists, who's like switching between good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy every 5 minutes,
over and over again,
over and over. And again, I know that's sort of a trope in like these sort of Indiana Jones sort of pulpy adventure kind of things, but they push it to its limit a little bit. It's at least it has the personality and charm to it. But yeah, it's not massively compelling. It's a bit silly, too silly in a way. And the gameplay, man, it just it gets quite repetitive. I think is the bigger problem. It gets to the point where there was an enemy type he's a big guy wearing big armor. I expect them. I don't expect realism. I don't expect them to go down in a few bullets like a real person would. But he took 3 shots from a bazooka to kill, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like that.
That's
that
pretty
takes
normal,
damage.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just works out. I guess just hit the gym, and that's how it goes. But like, this is on normal. I was playing normal difficulty. This wasn't like I get when you go to like higher difficulty, sometimes enemies become damage sponges, but it just kind of became ridiculous to a point where you get these really long gunfighting sections, and I'm gonna complain here again that, damn it, why don't PlayStation games have motion controls more often? Gyro controls. It helps so much. But anyway, that would have improved it a lot. But even still, like, they were fun, and I was quite enjoying it up to a point. But as it got later game, it just became a grind fest where battles were taking forever. And I am looking forward to getting to the end and being able to beat it. I don't think anything's going to happen to wildly change my opinion on the game, as I'm in like the last 3 chapters or something. And chapters are short. This isn't a Xenoblade game. These are short chapters.
Yeah, they're like half an hour each.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm in like the last hour, 2 hours of gameplay. But yeah, I know I'm coming off really negative here. I think it's a fun game. I actually quite enjoyed my time with it, and I think it's the perfect kind of game to play on stream, because things will happen where you get hit by a random bullet and suddenly Nathan Drake launches into the air in ragdolls or something, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
And it's a good game to chill with and play with friends. Like, even if you're not streaming, it's a great game to have friends over and just one of you be playing it. I feel like it's
just laugh at it almost.
Yes, in a sense, it's just silly and it's fun. But I don't think it's a great game. I mean, I gotta be real here. I don't see how this series is so well applauded. A bit like my thoughts on Kingdom Hearts. I'm like, I enjoyed a lot of this, but how's it got this level of praise when it's this level of jank is beyond me.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems to be a huge mix, doesn't it?
It does. And to be honest, I think even like, Uncharted 2 is seen as better than 1, and I'm not even sure I'd agree with that. I think it's got some better moments, and it's got some cooler stuff in it, but I think Uncharted 1, despite being also jank, is actually more balanced. I feel like I had less problems. I never got bored of repetitive gunfights in the same level that I have with 2. So I feel like 1 might actually be a bit more polished, or at least a bit less repetitive. So yeah, it's interesting. I still liked it. Again, I have a fun time with it, and I'm looking forward to streaming 3 and 4 when I get around to those. Maybe that's going to be next year. I still need to finish 2, which hopefully will be this month. So yeah, there'll be a link in my Twitch channel below if you want to check that out when it happens. But yeah, it's interesting game. That's to say the least.
Interesting
fun,
is
but,
a good way to put it.
Yeah, fun, but maybe not for all the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of it is like, especially for the time, these sort of like action movie type games is a cool idea, so that it has that, but at the same time, so much jank. Like, just the amount of times you can get shot before anything happens to your character. And it's like, I know they're not gunning for realism, but like, Nathan Drake has got to be the luckiest guy out there. Like, just in general.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, it's insane how action... Like, it almost feels like it's a action parody at times,
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I can see what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah, it's fun, but it's a mess. But
Absolutely.
anyway, Kai, what was your second game? What have you been? What else have you been playing?
So the second one I've been playing is more DLC, and it
Uh
is the
huh.
DLC for Age of Calamity. I've finally gotten around to it like a year after it's released or whatever. Uh,
Yay!
yeah. Finally got around to it because of course I've been playing all of Age of Calamity co-op with my dad,
Mm.
and yeah, it's been great. The DLC was really good. I managed to 100% it, because I already 100%ed everything in the base game. So I managed to 100% the DLC as well while I was away on holiday last month. And
Mm.
yeah, I really enjoyed it. The story, first off, was very good. It's just the 8 chapters. They were nice. I liked the cutscenes. It was all pretty charming. And I think that's really it. Like, it was nothing spectacular, but it was nice, which I feel like was enough.
Yeah.
In particular, I liked the stuff with Suga. Of course, more Suga love is always appreciated. And yeah, just in general, I like how it sort of fleshed out these characters even more than Age of Calamity already did. I really adore Age of Calamity just for how it fleshed out Breath of the Wild, and just it was like it was like Breath of the Wild, but rather than being post-apocalyptic and all like sad, it was like this is what it would be if it was like cool and exciting instead. And like, of course,
Yeah.
that's not going to suit everyone, but I liked it as an alternate reality. It's fun. So yeah, the story was good. The stages and like the new sort of enemies, like the big choo-choos, I didn't mind. I found them a little annoying at first, but I got used to them very
They
quickly.
get quite repetitive if you're going for 100%. Is the big thing when you
Oh
have to
yeah,
keep
let's
fighting
talk about
loads of
that.
them.
So
Yeah, the
yeah,
grind is real.
there's the skill tree thing that Robbie
Yeah.
and Pura have, which is a really cool idea, by the way. It has like really nice rewards. The only
Mm.
problem is you can only, even if you do like, buy the DLC before playing any of the game, you can only really do that in post game. And in order to unlock everything for everyone in the game, you need to complete these EX missions probably around about 100 times, I think is
Yep.
realistic. Each
Yeah.
time taking, what, like 5 minutes?
Yeah. It's a lot. It is a
Health
grind.
bars. Mm.
Mm.
So yeah, that was not fun, that part, I will say. I was getting very bored of that very quickly. So that
Yeah,
definitely
that's
was
the
not a
worst
highlight.
aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the new champion and descendant weapons they brought in. Of course, the music was bopping as ever. I like the new areas that they brought in. The Colosseum was pretty
Yes.
fun. What other new ones were there? I can't remember off the top of my
Oh
head.
god, it's been a year since I played it.
I did like the Forgotten Temple area.
Yes. Yeah, that was
cool.
so fun. What about the new
Um,
characters? The new playable characters?
Yeah, that's the main thing. They were really good. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
all of them. I'm trying to remember all of them off the top of my head because I did not note them down.
You got the Guardian for a start.
Yeah, okay, I think I've got all 5 of them. Is it 5? Yeah, I've got all 5 in my head, I think.
Mm.
So, starting off with the just variants, Link's weapon variant of the flail, I really liked.
Yeah.
That was really
Yeah.
fun. The standard moveset I quite liked off of the bat. But then him, sort of stealing any enemy weapons and then doing big damage against them. That was pretty cool, especially when you upgrade it so it has more durability. I really liked that concept. I've always liked the concept of sort of either like playing as standard enemies or using standard enemies to your advantage in these types of games. It's like how in Odyssey, it's like, oh, you can play as the enemies. I've always liked that, so that was really appreciated as a touch. The second was Zelda's motorbike, of course, the Cycle Zero.
Yes.
Yeah, that was amazing. I feel like that was such a... it makes sense. It makes so much sense to have that be one of the weapons, because of course that was a DLC item in Breath of the Wild. And
True,
it appears
yeah.
in Mario Kart for some reason. As DLC, I think, as well, in the original. Unless I'm mistaken. in Mario Kart 8?
I think well, there was originally there was a Master Cycle which wasn't the Zero. That was a different one, and then they added the Zero
Was
in
it?
Deluxe. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, but the Master Cycle looked
Okay.
different before. Yeah, it wasn't the Breath of the Wild version. It was like a whole version unique to Mario Kart 8.
Maybe that's why they called it the Master Cycle Zero, because they
Probably, yeah.
But yeah,
Mario
that
Kart
was
is
a cool
canon.
weapon.
Mm.
Yeah. I particularly liked when you use Cryonis with it, was a real highlight. Because then it just
yes.
makes a huge, you sort of go up a little bit on the ice, and then you just ride it for like a solid 5 seconds. It's great. It's so satisfying. Next would be the Guardian, the Ruined Guardian that you can play as. Amazing idea, playing as a Guardian. It's fantastic. I love that. All the Guardian moves to cause carnage. It was clearly like, one of the big type characters, kind of like sort of fairies and even Hestu to an extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked it. I like how instead of gliding, it has like a booster jet underneath it when you try and fly with it. Using all of its laser attacks, God, it was just so satisfying. So
It is.
that was amazing. If you couldn't tell, they were really doing a good job at making the characters.
They went all out, yeah.
Yeah, and that's even the 3 that I played less of. Then yeah, next I'll talk about Suga. Suga is one of my favourite characters in Age of Calamity. So I was really upset when he wasn't playable in the base game. It's actually really kind of difficult to get him as playable in the DLC even, because there's nothing that announces he'll be playable.
Yeah.
And the only way to get him is by filling certain requirements in one of the stages that aren't even clear to you, really.
I think I had to look it up, if I remember correctly. So
Yeah. I only got it on the second time through because I was like, what's going on here? I couldn't work it out. But yeah, Suga's really fun. I love his whole deal with counters because, of course, that's kind of how I played it. Is I was all about just like countering, and dodging. So rather than dodging, learning to like counter and do things that way was really fun. It's a shame you get him so late on because otherwise I would have used him more probably. But yeah, he was great. Really, really cool character. And then when you beat the story, Pura and Robbie. Man, I've been wanting Robbie in for a time, haven't I?
click snap.
He was so cool. Oh, he was really, really cool. I like, of course I'm a big Robbie supporter, so it's cool how you basically play as him with Pura supporting. It seems definitely of like their sort of style with him trying out all the gadgets and Pura's in the background trying to sort of make it all work.
Yeah.
Their special of calling in like their special divine weapons was really neat. I liked the concept. One thing I found interesting was that if you get caught up in your own attacks there, because it's like, oh, don't get caught up in your own attacks, it doesn't even hurt you. It just stuns you. For like half a second. So it's actually just overpowered. Yeah, that was really fun. I loved playing as Robbie and just sort of running around. I love all the little like dialogue bits that those two have as well. Of course, just in battle, I can't remember any off the top of my head, unfortunately, but they have some really good battle quotes. So yeah, that they were just absolutely phenomenal. I'm glad they were there. It's just a bit of a shame that they weren't there earlier.
Yeah, I think that's my main complaint with DLC. Looking, I think I'd probably said at the time, Ethan, was that you get these cool new characters, but you get them towards the end, and then you've got nothing left to do with them if you've 100%ed the game.
Yeah, that's
honestly,
exactly it.
You talking about this is making me want to just go back and play some levels for fun as those characters, and maybe I will even. I mean, it's a fun game.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So, I'm happy I played it. Of course, finished all of the levels in the end. Felt kind of anticlimactic because, of course, there is no reward for doing 100%. But, it's still really fun nonetheless. And, yeah. Warriors games been doing really good these last couple years.
They have.
Pray we get a Xenoblade one soon. Goodness.
Fingers crossed.
Give it. I honestly think give it maybe a year and a half, and I think it'll be here.
Honestly, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Please not soon because I'm still playing 3. Dear God. But
yeah, true. That's why I think it'll be a while.
But yeah, that does bring us to the end of the podcast. Every time I think it's going to be a shorter one, we go on for an hour. That's how it rolls.
Pokemon when you think about it.
Who needs it? I realise I completely forgot to mention that, but I think we'll be fine.
There's not a lot. There was some
Yeah.
competitive updates. You know, we got some new moves and some new items, and there's the big championship happening. That's really it.
We'll be back next month. Maybe there'll be some more stuff. But for now, that is the end of the podcast. So thank you so much for watching this far. Big thanks to our graphic designer Sam, who makes the thumbnail and all the logos for the channel. So thank you, Sam. There'll be links to his Twitter below. And of course, thank you to Kai, my co-host, as always, for the past 2 years or whatever it is. It's crazy. Where else can people find you at?
Twitch.tv/Fascurreyn, where I'm currently playing through like the entirety of Xenoblade 3 on stream right now.
Yes.
Everything I'm doing is live, and I am 100%ing the game. So it's a lot. There's a lot of big regions. There's a lot to do, and I'm enjoying every second of it. So
absolutely.
I'm over there pretty much all day, every day on weekdays. So
absolutely, check the link out in the description. Head there. When you turn on, chances are Kai will be online. You know, so
true. Yes, 50/50
the odds
shot.
are high. 50/50. And and then we'll just see you guys in the next video next month. We've got a main podcast. We'll probably do a middle video as well. I'm not sure what that'll be. Maybe finally some Mario Party. We'll have to talk about that.
Who knows?
But when we're done with Xenoblade, that will make up 90% of the channel. So that'll be coming up shortly-ish. Within the next month or so, we'll be starting talking about Xenoblade. Hopefully. But stay tuned for all of that. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Goodbye.